Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi Ritter. I am the Director of Community Affairs and Programs for Assemblymember Brian Cunningham in District 43, and I'm here to welcome you all to the second Town Hall Tuesday. If you all were on last week, you all heard us talk about housing. You all heard the Assembly member give some updates for what's been going on in Albany during session. And today we have a very special episode of Town Hall Tuesday because we have Councilmember Rita Joseph on with us. We are really excited for her to join us. And we also have a special host this time around. So this time around for Town Hall Tuesday, we are going to be joined by our host, Doriel Larrier, and she is going to be leading a conversation. So really quickly, I'm going to give you all some background on Doriel. We're going to pull her up and we're going to get this thing started. Doriel Inez Larrier is the founder of Learn to Grow You, Larrier's education and resource network, where her motto is, I plant seeds to help you grow. An educator, entrepreneur, and live streamer, you will find her from sunup till past sundown, educating the masses and traditional and digital rooms from Brooklyn to Botswana. Okay, Botswana. She is the wing woman for those who want to leverage virtual settings strategically, multiply the market of their message. She hosts two shows, the Doriel Larrier Show, a weekly live stream, as well as the Lot Carey Wise Digital Couch, a monthly show of local and global mission leaders. A proud resident of Flatbush, Brooklyn, mother of two princes, and member of the National Council of Negro Women, as well as the Salem Missionary Baptist Church, Doriel Larrier empowers inspirational leaders to hashtag push the live button to expand their reach and impact their lives by connecting with their community. Ladies and gentlemen, Doriel Larrier.
Good evening, everyone. And as I say on all of my shows, Dumela, Sawubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Obshin, Dubla Ota, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep. It's so amazing to be with you all today. You usually see me on some other channels and in some places and spaces, but tonight I had the blessed opportunity to have two amazing elected officials on this stage, on this panel, in this Town Hall Tuesday, and I'm very blessed and honored. A lot of people will ask questions of elected officials, but then not show up. Or the elected officials will say, come on and come to this town hall. But before Rona, not everyone was going. Sometimes when people send those placards, the elected officials make the newsletters, but sometimes people don't read them. But where people will show up, is they will scroll across the internet streets. And so we have brought them to you. And tonight we will have, of course, Assembly Member Brian Cunningham and Council Member Rita Joseph. Let us welcome them.
Hey, Council Member. Hey, Doriel.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're great.
I felt like I was with you last night.
Huh?
I said I felt like I was on this show last night.
Oh.
I think you were, but it's time, of course, for a slightly different conversation. Welcome to the both of you. So good to have you both here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Ms. Doriel, Assembly Member Cunningham.
Well, I always say that's what partnership looks like, right? I think people see us together all the time. They know that we're working hard on the city and state issues. So I call this our city and state Tuesday Town Hall.
Yes, I agree that we want to continue that to make sure we're working in partnership.
Beautiful. So let's hop into the conversation. Part of the conversation is going to, let's actually just have a little housekeeping. So for those people who are watching this live, there's a little logistics that we have to work through. StreamYard is a platform where if you want to be seen, then you're going to click the little hyperlink at the top that says StreamYard in order for us to see your name. That's one thing. If you want to drop a comment, please drop a comment, ask a question, and we will field the questions towards the end of the conversation. The last thing, sharing, of course, is caring. If you see any one of the people up here that you know, that you want to hear from, that you want to get information about, share it with someone else and say, guess who's on? It's time to ask those questions. Not whispering on the, grocery line, not talking about people at the post office or at church. Don't just pray for them, but you can talk to them. And this is the time that you can do that. So drop the comments and we're going to get started. Our conversations tonight are going to be about the budget, which just was passed last night, housing, transportation, and public safety. We're going to open up with a budget update from our council member, Rita Joseph.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure everyone watched. The budget was last night. The budget was a success. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but it was a success. The mayor came in when we first got the budget, preliminary budget, wanting to cut 3% from parks, hospitals, and so on and so forth. And we pushed back. When we did our budget response with the council, we rejected the cuts, but we got major wins. We increased sanitation, summer youth programs, foster care programs, e-waste. We did a lot of great, amazing things for our neighbors. We were able to also get $67 million for infrastructure to support libraries. Libraries was a lifeline for students during the pandemic. And we're also proud that we have unprecedented transparency for NYPD, giving us more details on how they spend their money before it happens. And we hold the budget was held flat. Yeah, there were minor funds allocated. That was because of collective bargaining, labor agreements that existed. And also we were able to not allow the mayor to add headcount, which was about 578 headcounts to DOC, which works directly with Rikers Island. And we know that what was been happening at Rikers Island, we couldn't allow that. We were like, let's bring back the employees, the people that were working before. Bring them back and let's work it out. And we also increased in public education. We made a lot of gains. For example, this is the first time Summer Rising, we increased 110,000 seats. Summer Youth, we were able to expand it to 900,000 slots. And we baselined that. And we were able to finally provide $46 million to increase fair wages for special education pre-daycare Summer Youth. We were able to expand on CTE education. Fair futures, or for students who went through for young people that went through the foster care system, and supporting them to the age of 26. We doubled the amount of learn and grow. When I first got in, it was 2,200. It's now 4,400. We were able to put ENL specialists for our students, DOE coordinators for students living in temporary housing. We were also able to fund the Advanced Equity Action Plan, which is a Black history, a Black studies curriculum from K to 12. We've done a lot. Even for reconnecting young people into CUNY. There are reasons why people leave CUNY, many different reasons. They look for work, they become parents, and there's a program now that they can go back and earn their degrees. So there's so many amazing things in this budget. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's a start. If we start somewhere, we can always work and make it better. Every day is the day of learning to improve. Nothing is perfect. I don't think anything is perfect, no matter how much we say it. And this budget wasn't tied to. It wasn't because of this budget that the school budget was cut. It was never about that. It was that was supposed to happen. We were supposed to fight, and I'm still fighting. The budget is not adopted. We have July to work. We have July to keep working and negotiating. We have budget modifications that we can also do. So it's not over. It's just the beginning. And know that I will still continue to fight on behalf of New York City children. I have always said that. I'm educated for 22 years. It was always about the children for me, being their ally and their champion. And I will continue to do that. Again, it wasn't perfect, but it's a work in progress. For the first time, too, we were able to fund FEPS, which is a rental voucher. It is now equivalent to the Section 8. So those are major wins for our community. So we're going to work from those major wins to make it even better, to make sure that we are able to plug in the holes in our schools, to make sure the FSF is funded at 100% for our students. So I'm here ready to work, as always, rolling up my sleeve and be the council member that they wanted me to be. So I'm here. Again, it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but I will make sure that I continue to fight on the inside. And as parents and community, you continue to fight outside. You continue to raise your voice. You continue to hold us accountable and responsible because you vote us to be your leader. So I'm here for it, and I'm forever grateful for my partner in government, Brian Cunningham. Thank you so much for all your support, guiding me, always providing support. If I have a question I don't know the answer, I reach out. Always willing to support me. So we're here doing it.
Excellent, excellent. So we thank you for the update on what has happened with the budget. And thank you very much for also saying that it is not like it's not set in stone, right?
No,
It's like the first run, would you say?
Yeah, it's the first run. It's not set in stone. It's a living, breathing document that you can always go in and you can continue to make changes and continue to adjust it and make it better. Your first round is not going to be perfect, but we can keep working at it. It's a work in progress, and it's a living, breathing document.
And just to jump in here, the same thing was said during the state budget that was passed in April. What people sometimes don't realize is that in the budget process, the executive, the mayor, the governor has a lot of leverage and control over those initial budgets. Where legislators come in is when we push to make sure more resources are added to the budget, so money gets in and money gets out. But also, like what we're going to do over the next couple of months is really putting together a strong legislative package that will be able to address some of the shortfalls of the budget and redirect money into the appropriate places. So again, no budget was perfect. The state budget wasn't perfect. The city budget wasn't perfect, but there were some record investments in certain areas. Again, Rita talked a lot about education, but the state put in $31.2 billion in education. We put in over $53 million in mental health services. So where the city budget sometimes had some cuts, the state, which has a $220 billion budget, and a city that had a $100 billion budget, you think about that, we have a lot of money in New York State. We have the state of New York is the third largest budget in the country, and the city is the fourth largest in the country. And I think with some of the challenges that were in this budget, I think this budget was a really solid budget, and I just congratulate my council colleague for her first budget go around. I know that she was on BNT and she'll be fighting for not only our district, but the children of the city of New York.
Yeah, I will continue to fight. There are those who felt I didn't fight enough. So I was in there fighting every single day, tooth and nails, and I will continue to fight. I tell all my advocates, continue your fight on the outside, raise hell, do what you have to do while I do what I have to do on the inside, and you do what you have to do on the outside.
Can I actually ask a question about, so what would be the appropriate quote unquote fight that the advocates can do so that we can tactfully get the information that we're concerned about and the constituents are concerned about to your office? What is that protocol?
Yeah, so let me jump in for where we are. In terms of Albany, we legislate from January to June, and then from July to December, we're typically home taking meetings with constituents and other folks, advocates. What I suggest people do is, a lot of people think about the budget when the budget's going to be passed. So like the 2-week lead up is when most constituents and advocates are fighting for resources in the budget or address budget shortfalls. I would say the budget really starts in September, right? Both the city and state. So it's really important that you begin after the summer months. I know that people want to just reconnect with folks and be outside, so to speak. But I know by September, we should really be placing to your elected officials, your city and state elected officials, and your federal ones, what your asks are, because the budget's going to come back around in April and July 1st. These are when the state and city budgets are due before the executive sign it. So I would really push and urge people to try to get those asks into us early, so that when the mayor or the governor is putting in their preliminary budget, that we're able to put in our items before it even becomes their big address they're going to announce.
And call us up as well. For example, there was a call to put in a mental continuum. We were able to do that. And when it was important, it was one of those one-time shots, one shot, and we were able to return it to get it back on there, because it was a great support during the pandemic for students to have that mental support. We are still providing those supports, the guidance counselors, the social workers, into the schools. So we're here. A lot of the policies also are driven by advocates who advocate on certain policies that they would like to see. I know the big conversation we're talking about is the fair student funding. How do we look at that formula moving forward? Is that something we want to use in the future? Do we want to tweak it? Because I think it came about 20 years ago. We're in a different time, different era. We've lived through a pandemic. So maybe this is time we revisit that conversation and say, maybe we need to redirect. I think we're the only school system in the country that uses this formula. So maybe we need to revisit it.
Okay. Let's take a look at what's happening with housing. What's happening with our housing? What are some of the needs that have been addressed? What are some of the current top issues? And I know there was a possibility of talking about public housing. And so does that include the the shifting of who's living in the public housing? Does it have to do with the current eviction issues or moratoriums post, I have to say, Rona? I can't say the word. Some people know why, but so what are the hot topics? What are the things that are happening in legislation pertaining to housing?
Well, let me just start off by saying, as a state legislator, we didn't get good cause eviction to the floor for a vote, and that was disheartening for a lot of people in our community. Something that we're going to continue to fight for and push. I think no tenant deserves to be evicted for no cause of their own. We got to work better at the messaging. I think some of the messaging through landlords, or particularly smaller landlords that live in our community with 1 and 2 family households, we did go and codify that language and change language to make sure it didn't include smaller landlords, and that landlords wouldn't be hurt in the process, and that these were tenants who were going to be actually making a good faith effort to catch up on any back rent as a result of the pandemic. But it was a failure of the legislator. If you're going to take the victories and the victory laps and the things we did well, I'm going to also take the hits for the things that did come to the floor. So I'm looking forward to going back to Albany in January and pushing really hard to make sure we pass good cause eviction. I'm looking forward to also for homeowners making sure we deliver on the promise of lowering property taxes. It can't be a one-sided conversation where we're just talking about the fact that tenants are being evicted. We have a lot of landlords who can pay their mortgage, have lived in communities for 20, 30 years, but the property taxes are getting to them. And that's because of some of the tax abatements that were given to developers and the taxes that have gone up for them. And we're seeing it all around us. We're seeing some of these single family households that were previously in our neighborhoods, right down the block on Linden in New York, 2 blocks from where I live. We're seeing some of those family homes gutted and newer buildings going up. Again, I have no problem with new buildings and new amenities coming into our communities, but I do think we have to do this in a responsible way that doesn't gut the wealth of people who help create the dynamic community we have in this community.
Yeah, in the council, we were able to pass, along with the state, the property tax rebate, which was a $90 million win. We were able to put in there for small homeowners, as Brian was saying. So we have to also support small homeowners. We know one of the things we face a lot is affordability. The building stocks in Brooklyn and in our district is very little. I was just looking at a news report where they said in April of 2021, there was about 20,000 vacant apartments. And this year, April 2022, we only have about 3,000 available vacant apartments. So now you have people scrambling, and now the prices go up because supply and demand. Your demand is small and everybody needs an apartment. And also one of the things we want to work on is make sure that landlords are taking care of their tenants. That this district has the highest HPD phone calls and nothing happens. And that's why we have a bill along with Councilmember Sanchez to raise the fine on landlords who are not taking care of the buildings. The buildings are run down, rodent infested, and people have no choice to move because there are no other affordability apartments that they can afford to live in. And when we see that's one of the things Brian and I talk about. We always wanted a neighborhood AMI or a zip code AMI, one that matches where people are living, not where they build and like, hey, we built 5 affordable apartments. What is affordability? Affordability for me is $3,000, almost $3,500 a month based on what I'm making. So that's what they consider affordable.
Right. So actually, I have a question about that. So there are, a number of, let's just say Linden Boulevard, I think Lenox Road, what I'm talking about, the corner of Caton and Flatbush. There are these 15, 20-story buildings that have gone up. And the people, when they started constructing these vertical communities, I know that term, vertical communities, and maybe you two can explain what a vertical community is in a moment. But when they started creating these, the people who wanted to live in them at the time needed housing at that time. They didn't necessarily have the pocket change to hold on to for 3 or 4 or 5 years until the house or the structure became available. And then, as you said, council member, maybe there was only, let's say 6% of the units that were for moderate to low income, but then it's almost like the federal guidelines for, I guess I'll say, impoverishment. You have to be 150% below the poverty line in order to qualify. But you're not then living in this area anyway. So what are the current guidelines for contractors to build in communities and then to say, yes, according to who already lives there, we're going to construct these that are affordable for residents.
It's a three-part problem, right? So on the city level, it comes down to zoning and looking at areas that we need to downzone, areas we need to look at that are R7 zones, and figure out whether or not we need to look at where we have an appetite to do some higher buildings. But certainly every avenue, every block, every corridor cannot have that propensity. On the federal level, I think Rita hit the nail on the head. We have a bill in the state assembly right now that says that any state dollars going towards affordable housing should be based on CMIs. This is something that I've been talking about since 2017, that we have to have community median incomes, not average median incomes. And that's an issue the federal government has to take on. But in the state, again, because the federal government fails to act 98% of the time on big issues like guns and housing and other things, we have to be the defender of the state of New York. And on the federal level, I'm not sure why we don't have a bill in Congress right now to lower CMIs. It's not just neighborhoods like New York and California and some of these big urban communities. There are rural areas and Midwestern places where the AMIs include large swaths of rural and suburban areas with urban areas where people are being priced out. So again, it's a three-pronged problem. I'm excited to work alongside my councilman because she's very active on these issues and actually helped me draft that bill that we put in on the CMI piece, and looking forward to working with our federal partners as well to see what we can do. Again, this is why midterm elections matter. People always ask, what does my vote mean? It means representation in Congress on the state level and on the city level to make sure that we're all in one accord with an agenda that's policy that's getting at the heart of dismantling poverty in our communities.
I believe the Congresswoman, our colleague, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, I believe she has a bill about that in the federal government. I would love for her to take out Nassau County and Westchester in calculating the AMI for us. And one of the things, I do have to make a disclaimer. The Caton Avenue Flatbush, it was one of those affordable projects that came into the district. Yeah, it took about 3 to 4 years for it to be built. And some of the needs, as you mentioned, are urgent. The turnaround is sooner. So we have to build more affordable stocks and make them accessible. That's why we were so excited that we were able to invest into the FEPS program that now create these rental vouchers that are equivalent to Section 8. Now, the biggest challenge sometimes they have is we have to find landlords that's willing to take them. So they also face discrimination when they have these vouchers. And that's one route to help ease the homelessness situation. We know as a former educator, we have about 114,000 students who sleep in shelters that are doubled up. So
30% in our district alone. 30% in our district, our school district alone, school district 17. Right. So it's crazy. The overlap is just like
30% of our students. So that's why I said the fight is the beginning. This budget is a beginning. It's not the end. It's the beginning of a fight, a long fight to make sure what we said we would do, access and equity, and deliver for our communities, that we continue to do it, and we can do, and we're doing it together.
I think she got stuck there.
Yes, she did.
The facts were shocking.
We lost you there for a minute.
Somebody's jealous out there. I'm glad we're all back. The lag will kick in a second. All right. So is there a conversation about 421A?
That's the state bad bill. That's the state, but it ran out. So Brian they have no idea.
I let you came from me. All right, I got you. No, 421A did die. So it expired. We did not vote on a new plan. I think the new plan was 485W, which would essentially be doing some of what 421A did and rebranded. Some of the challenges some of my colleagues and I had, again, goes back to the AMI issue of it still included AMIs, which means that even if we did 50% affordable and 50% market, it still included parts of Westchester, Long Island, and the 5 boroughs, which means that people in our communities wouldn't benefit directly from the housing stock, and that's something that we have to close the gap on. But certainly I think the bigger problem was with the bill is that it still had this 80-20 dynamic where I think people more have an appetite in the state now for 20, 30, 50, which is 50% at market, 30% for low income, and 20% for people who are middle class, moderate income, which would create more dynamism in the housing stock. Still a far way, again, if we don't address the AMI issue, we're still not getting the right income levels for people to live in those units. And again, we certainly didn't pass good cause eviction. So I think, as I always say, prevention is better than cure. I think we have to first focus on the first part, which is, I think the councilman mentioned it, getting these building owners to have higher violations when they are out of code. Think about 221 Linden Boulevard, down the street from where I live. The fact that my team and I have to go there on Thursday to take over 30 intake cases of buildings where there's actually mold growing in apartments, landlord not treating tenants right, no heat in the winter. I think about 320 Empire Boulevard down the street from my office, where literally in this town hall last week, town hall Tuesday, they came on talking about mushrooms growing out of their ceiling. So we have to hold these landlords accountable. We certainly have to do more on the AMI front, and we certainly have to make sure we protect tenants from being evicted in the first place, because we can't turn around housing fast enough for someone who's evicted today. Any shovel that goes in the ground today to build any project, we already have a backlog of people who are on the verge of homelessness in our city and in our district specifically.
I just want to just pop in for a moment. I'm very thankful that there are people who are dropping comments in the chat, and we appreciate you for also letting us know your name, so we will be able to shout you out. And we're going to just hold the comments until towards the end. They are very, very fruitful. They are already representative of the conversations that we've had so far. And so in a few moments, we're actually going to bring them up to the stage and show them, and then, and as best as possible, address them. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
No problem. So I don't know. I know the state has a proposition to reintroduce another form of 421A. And when I was running, that was one of the things that I called. It's 50 years old. We're living in a new era now. So it needed to be revised, revamp, or get rid of it completely, as they have done this year, to make sure that when we talk about affordability, we're really making it deep affordable for people making 30%. Some of my neighbors make 32%, $32,000 a year. And sometimes it's a family of four. So it's really a time for the state and the city to reflect and look on ways that we can make sure that our neighbors are staying in. We also have to make sure that we're not displacing anyone, and the folks that are living in their place, make sure we're providing a decent place for them to live and not being displaced. And the ones that we're trying to, our unhoused neighbors that we're trying to make sure they get permanent housing, can't afford it. It's not like, can I eat or can I pay my rent? Sometimes those are the decisions that we're making. Also making sure we're taking care of our seniors.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I think people missed, the state did, again, it was a good session, still some things we left undone. But we also passed a bill that would convert hotels that weren't union hotels with union workers into housing for people, permanent housing for people. And I thought that was something that we did on the housing front. Again, not far enough, but certainly a stopgap, I believe.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's address transportation. Now, whether that is the bike lane, those of you in Brooklyn, you know, if you were driving, now you have to share the road. Whether that is our current subway system and the safety of the subway system, or adding cars or taking away cars, or addressing the people who are working in the subways, the police activity in the subways, the people who were the tellers and who are no longer the tellers, because now you can use your phone to get on the train. But all those issues impact and how many trains are getting us places that we need to go. Cleaning. What are the current issues about our transportation in our city?
I know, for example, I would love to see, I got a lot of pushback on that. I would love to see a bus lane on Flatbush Avenue. When I saw the rate, it is rated one of the worst bus systems. The B41 is one of the worst buses. Yes, it moves slow. It affects us. So we needed to move faster because a lot of double cars, it has to weave in and out of traffic. So it would get us there faster.
But how is that possible to have a bus lane on Flatbush Avenue? Flatbush Avenue is so tight in and of itself.
I'll give you a quick clue.
Okay.
Help me out.
Off the double park vehicles. Double park vehicles is actually the biggest problem on Flatbush Avenue. If you drive down Flatbush Avenue, I have the pleasure of being a cyclist. I have a Brompton. I drive. I walk. So I kind of see this, and I take the train. So I see this from all different angles.
Correct.
And every time I'm in my position of privilege, whether that be a bike or a car or walking, I see it from the vantage point in which I am participating in my
activity. Correct.
But double park cars to me are the consistent part of the equation. I've always seen when you have a double park car in a bike lane, that cyclist now has to go around into the street, potentially getting hit by a car. We have a car coming down and trying to make a right turn. The double park car can obscure your vision. As a pedestrian, you can't see around cars. So for me, I would definitely want to see an issue with double park cars taken up and people being more courteous and neighborly in doing it.
Definitely. So one of the things I had also said is people would get more. There would be less cars if the transportation was reliable, and if the infrastructure supported it as well. So I wanted to compromise because I know the community came. Somebody was like, I was like, oh, I wanted to compromise during rush hour. It would be great to have the bus lane work from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's just a thought. So families can get from school to work. Some people, I have families who take the train and the bus. And so if the bus was reliable from point A to point B, then we can use that to have less cars. It's also economic justice, also an environmental justice issue as well. So it's not just, let's put up a bus lane, but it's environmental because a lot of the folks, when we looked at the studies and the data, we see that it's low-income New Yorkers that ride on the bus. So why not provide them with a quality? Then it will encourage all others to want to ride the bus. I know you're like,
I'm getting driver vibes here from her.
What? Listen. I'm okay. So I have a level of privilege at this moment. I do drive. I only say that I took the train once, and that was to go see a Broadway show because I was not going to,
pay $50 million.
Pay $50, even though I did it this weekend.
$275.
$275.
I just said, boop.
Yeah, I pull out my Metro card and I was on the bus, and they were surprised. They're like, "Council member, you on the bus?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on the bus. Council member, take the bus too."
Look at how ready that card is.
I use it.
Wait a minute! Don't just use your card. Okay, next one. But okay, so serious conversation. Of course, it is really serious. Now, I'm a Flatbush born and bred person. So when I think Flatbush Avenue, I think the Junction. I think Church and Flatbush. I think Empire Boulevard, and I'm talking about the Flatbush version. The only bus lane that I can see that would work well is between Empire and Eastern Parkway, because once you get on the other side of Eastern Parkway and you head downtown, tell me who's actually going to make a bus lane towards the Barclays. I'm just saying, really.
So, but it's a thought because the idea is there. They're more. I'm encouraging people. I get on the train and the bus and I walk everywhere I go. People are surprised. Like a council member, Brian will tell you, I'm always walking up and down, and I have a Metro card. I get on the bus. I go to City Hall on the train, or sometimes I take the bus to get into City Hall. So I got to make sure that the pedestrians and they're safe too. So the infrastructure also has to support what I'm asking for. For example, Empire and Flatbush, I would love to see a redesign. I'm thinking of what it should be in conversation with DOT. That looks like a 4-way street highway. Because I lost 2 students. Personally, it gets personal for me at a point. I lost 2 students to traffic violence. These are young people we've invested so much in, waiting for them to just say, I'm going here and I'm going there. And then life was cut short. One at 13 and one at 19. So we have to make sure the infrastructures are there. Train stations, somebody hasn't touched our train station. Most train stations, to tell you the truth, are not even ADA compliant. It takes 2 hours for someone with a disability to get on and off and travel New York City trains. So if we were making them ADA accessible for all, it would be a game changer. I wouldn't have to wait to go to the next station. For example, Parkside doesn't have, it's not ADA compliant. Caton Avenue, that person would have to go all the way to Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
Go and catch the train, and they haven't touched them. The bathrooms, the infrastructure of the train station system, period, needs to be touched.
I mean, overall, I think the other part that we have to talk about is just like this conversation has to include everyone, right? It just can't include cyclists or people that take public transportation. It has to include drivers. It has to include small business owners who will be impacted by some of these changes as well. So I know the councilman and I have been in early talks with the Department of Transportation, but I know we're planning on coming back to the table with them, having a conversation, but also having a larger town hall with the community about transportation in the district as well. So looking forward to that more inclusive conversation, like you said, conversation that we're representatives. We get sent to Albany and to City Hall to represent you. We take those things, those decisions, we weigh them very heavily based on all the outcomes and all the people that it affects, and try to come up with the best ideas possible with your voices.
Yeah, I can suggest it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it without the community. Of course, I'm going to listen to community input. This is your voice. I have to bring your voice with me. So, of course, community input will be very important. Just to echo what Brian is saying, we definitely will include community voice. We will never leave community out.
So I'm going to pause just for a moment. I'm very, very excited that we're having more and more comments in the comment section from a variety of, we have cyclists who are commenting, we have drivers who are commenting, we have bus riders who are commenting, and one person actually is representing small businesses on Flatbush Avenue. And so, Assembly Member, thank you very much for at least touching on that, the delivery. But again, we'll get into comments at the end, but I just want to let you know that as we're engaging in these chats, that there are people who are being the voice. And so those people who are in the chat, just so you know, whether or not your comment or question gets addressed right now, as council members said, that the voices will be heard from the variety of the constituents. This is actually a way for us to have it recorded and have it added to their question box, if you will. So continue to share, continue to even feed questions from people that you know who live in the communities that are represented by the Assembly member and the council member, and we will be addressing them tonight. Okay, are we ready to go to our last hot topic, which is public safety?
Public safety.
Let's all take a breath on that.
Yes, and it encompasses a lot of things. It's not just public safety, policing, cheers. We always say that. I know that's one thing. Brian I learned so much from him through Cure Violence, to the amazing work he's done with SOS in Crown Heights. That's amazing, and I follow that. And we kept on saying public safety comes with so many different things, especially coming out of a pandemic. Mental health support. It's not just let's police everything. It comes with jobs, and that's one of the things we were happy about. This year, we were able to allocate 100,000 summer youth jobs to make sure that young people had something to do during the summertime. And we added more fun to learn, earn, and grow, where we created more seats where kids can work after school all year round versus just being the 6 weeks. So that's why I'm saying it wasn't a perfect budget, but we were thinking of them as we created this budget. What are the ways to make it better? We always say the more resources in a community, the less crime that it has. So if we're not, we have to make sure that we provide those resources.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that people don't talk about, I got a chance to talk to some folks about this in some one-off conversations at doors when I'm talking to folks, is that public safety conversation is often predicated just on more policing and thinking that communities with more police are safe. What people didn't realize is that during the pandemic, the 2-year period, because outreach workers and violence interrupters were not classified as essential workers, they theoretically could not be in the street doing the work they do to interrupt the spread of violence before it happens. So that's something that we are working with the city, and I think has been done. I'll stand corrected if it's not, but it has been corrected that now interrupters and outreach workers are considered essential workers who can then do that interruption work. So for about 1.5 years, we didn't have the same kind of robust interactions that outreach workers had. The other thing we didn't do is, and I think we should still do it, is actually make sure there's a violence interrupters and outreach workers in every precinct in New York City. I think it's important that we have these programs embedded in all the parks in the city. Initially, when it first came out a few years ago, we focused on just 21 very high concentrated areas of crime and where there were shootings that were very high. Crown Heights started our program 10 years ago. We saw 77% reduction in gun violence since that program has been there over the last 10 years. Yes, there has been a spike as of recently, but that's a spike all over the country. Gun violence is up all over the country. Crime is up all over the country. And I feel like if we continue to double down on those investments, we'll continue to yield good results. And I'm looking forward to the city and the state working together to make sure we have more resources in that pocket.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's why I introduced the bill to have a summer universal youth program to invest in young people. Again, I can't reiterate it enough. It wasn't a perfect budget, but it provides level of investments in young people that I've never seen before. So,
can you actually just give a moment the summer universal program? What does that look like?
It's a bill that I introduced to have a universal summer youth program. Is one of the most it's one of the most successful tools if we keep our young people engaged, learning professional skills, financial literacy, a pathway to careers. They will be engaged. We've that before. And it's been before. It was a game changer when SYEP was introduced. It was, so we need to continue. We need to find different models as times have adjust. Young people, we coming out of a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic in ways because things are slowly coming back, and we don't know what the long-term effects are. So we have to make sure that we're providing all kinds of support in every areas of wraparound services, and that's why we were so excited when we found out that community schools was on the verge of being cut. We were able to restore the budget, the funding for community schools, and added 10 extra because they come with different wraparound services, mental health, job placement, internships, even restorative justice. So a lot of these things were important to us. Like I said, this is an ongoing fight, and it's not going to end to make sure that we deliver what we promise our young people.
Okay. I thank you very much for just at least tapping on to the hot topics that we have. If there isn't another like focused addition to what we've addressed so far, we can start fielding questions if that's okay.
Yeah, take some questions.
Okay, I am
going. Are they coming on camera? Or we pull them on?
No, I'm actually going to pull. I'm going to pull them up.
Okay.
Okay, so this looks like a summation of some of the questions. I'm going to mention this summation from our moderator, and then we'll pull up a couple of questions and we'll pop them right into the bottom as a ticker, okay? So this is from Virginia Bechtold. The statement is, Councilmember Joseph, do you agree with your colleagues who voted no on the budget? Some of your fellow Progressive Caucus members also representing historically underserved communities being cut out of the Speaker's initiative to address citywide needs. What can be done about that?
I think they should have a conversation with the Speaker, talk and find out and defend your community, or if they need be, call them out. Call her out on her actions if needs be. I don't think it's fair. It shouldn't be done. Everyone came in council on different platforms. Some of us are far left, some of us are middle, some of them are very conservative. We have Republicans in the council. So no one should be punished for standing and believing on their own.
Okay. And I'm saying this for everyone here, whether or not the question is fully, delves into that, there can be additional comments or questions added to the feed, and both the assembly member and the council member's office can field them in further conversations. Because I know this is just the second of 2 assembly member town halls, or
3.
3 more after this.
1 more.
That's what I mean. So this is the second of 3. Okay. So here's another question. This is from Anthony Beckford. So assembly member, I know you're a fur papa. You're a fur dad. You have a fur baby.
Yes, I am. I am a puppy that think it's time for a walk.
Oh, okay. Hold on, sweetie. All right. So this is from Anthony Beckford. How do you both feel about giving tenants the opportunity for ownership?
Yeah, great question. So one of the bills that we're signed on to in the office is TOPA. which would essentially give tenants an opportunity to purchase their home if their landlord was selling the home. One of the things that I would like to see happen in a larger context is what I consider Mitchell-Lama 2.0. I hope none of my colleagues are listening because they may take this bill, is instead of giving developers money just to develop low, affordable rentals, what if we did a service by providing down payment assistance to people to purchase units that they were building, so that we can keep that long-term wealth and continuity in community for a long time. I really believe that the key that we need to unlock to keep our communities from being unrapidly gentrified is building institutions and creating home ownership. And home ownership doesn't mean that you have a home with a white picket fence. It means that you could own your unit. So I'm definitely curious to see how we do that. Part of the challenge we're seeing with New Yorkers, myself including others, is that it's so hard to get to a place of having a down payment because your rent is over 60% of what you put out every month. So that's over 60%. Gas is up. The price of Metro cards are going up every year. Dollar cap went up to $3 now. So it's just like this ongoing cycle of spend, and not enough to save. So if we can get people who are committed to being in that community for 10 to 15 years, give them down payment assistance, and if they sell before then, that we recoup some of those costs at closing, that may be a way to incentivize people staying in their homes longer. But much longer conversation, but I'm on TOPA right now. Let's try to figure out how to create more home ownership. I think our district right now is 83% renters. I would love to see that number increase to more homeowners. Not because I think it's not a value in renting a property, but I do think if given the opportunity to have fixed costs over the next 15, 30 years, opposed to be at the whims of a landlord every 2 years, I think most tenants and most folks would agree that they would want that option, as well as a property tax would infuse into our school system to help some of the gap shortages in funding go into our public schools.
And also, there's great organizations on the ground also doing that kind of work through ownership. For example, NHS. Yep, they do amazing work around helping people become homeowners by giving them classes, how to perfect their credit, how to apply for a loan. And then it's kind of like a wraparound service. They don't let you go once you own the home. They also show you how to maintain it, how to get it repairs, how to apply for loans, how to get even closing costs. Sometimes depends on your income, you can get help with the closing costs, help you with inspections. And so that helps a lot because buying a home is a huge investment. And to have an org like NHS to help you walk you through the process, it's an amazing support. So that's why I support organizations like that are doing that type of work and also create generational wealth.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think this question is connected. How do you plan to combat apartment warehousing? And for those who may not know, give a short definition on what apartment warehousing is and what is our thought about it.
You taking that one? I'll take it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the things that I think could be done, again, this is more of a city issue than a state issue, is creating a vacancy tax for properties that are vacant for a set amount of time. I think there are too many apartments that, again, are eating up the supply chain of available units that would be available if we didn't have foreign investors kind of parking these apartments for long periods of time. But I don't know if the councilman has anything she wants to add to that, but I definitely...
I just want to echo that. That was one of the same things I agreed on. I know quite a few I visited a building the other day because they were having rat issues. We went to visit the building and the landlord has about at least 6 to 7 apartments that have been sitting there for at least 2 years, according to the tenants, not renting them out because he just feels like he's not getting the market price for them. And these apartments are $3,200 and not repairing the current one that the tenants live in. But he renovated, as soon as you move out, he renovated the apartments and they were on the market for $3,200. And because they're not renting, they're just sitting there. So that would be a great way to impose vacancy tax on properties like that when the homes, the housing market is so low, the stocks are so low.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up a couple of these on the side. So currently we're at 52 or 48 minutes in. Can we go to the full?
Let's go to full hour.
All right. Well, the full hour. Oh, we're going to need more time for this. I'm just saying. We got a lot of questions.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions. And I told you from the beginning, it's going to be spicy.
It's going to be, listen, hold on. We need to sip.
My word is done.
Here we go. Go refill the water. All right. Here we go. So I'm going to pull it up quickly and then I'll pull it down so that the person can be recognized. So this is from, I think I can do this. This is from Virginia Bechtold. Can I do it? Oh, I can't do that. That's not a problem. I thought I was going to be able to pull it up. So Virginia Bechtold says, do you agree with your, I'm sorry. I think I just read that. Sorry.
Mhm.
Here we go. So Jason Stephen Hill, Councilmember Joseph, what are the chances of path to freezing or decreasing the NYPD budget?
I believe we did that this year. The only difference in this budget is the fact that there were agreements, collective bargaining that was in this budget. We were able to not allow the budget to go up. We were able to create transparency. For the first time, this council was able to create a way for the NYPD to be transparent. Before, it was called terms and conditions for them to come before us if they was ever spent overtime money that was supposed to be reported to us. That has never been done. So those are terms and conditions. Again, it wasn't a perfect budget, but it starts a conversation that has never happened before. I'm going to own my decision. I'm never going to back away from it. But again, schools were not attached to this budget. That was another thing. Schools were never attached to this budget. The yes on this budget doesn't mean I cut schools. They were running out of funds. The FSF is the fair student funding was already a broken system, and then there was a commission even issued to do a study on it, and the commission was never published. The report was never published. So this is a system that has to be fixed. And I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. This is not over. The budget is not over. This is the beginning and not the end. It's a living and working document. One, I will continue to fight to make sure that my New York City students have what they need, and that's a promise. And it's a continued fight. Yes, I voted yes, and it's not a secret. It's on record. It's public record. However, it wasn't perfect, but there was a lot of wins in this as well. It was our New York City children have a lot of wins. Mental Continuum was able to get back on the table. We were finally able to get ENL for these students. Immigrant supports for the Mental Continuum was in this for them. Mental support was in there for them. So there's a lot. There's a lot of wins as well.
Yeah. And again, I'll just echo the same thing. The state budget passed in April, and again, there was a lot of outcry to the budget.
No.
In the state budget. So, we talk about $31.2 billion in education aid, $1.1 in universal pre-K, $53 million in mental health services, over $5.5 million in library funding. Again, no budget is perfect. Budgets are a reflection of values, that are a reflection of the times. But certainly it is really important that we understand that a lot of that work is hard work when we're doing negotiations of budgets.
$67 million to back up Brian. We added $67 million for libraries. Libraries was a lifeline for our students this pandemic. They provided support. They stepped up, provided hotspots for our students, Wi-Fi, story time for our young people on Google. They were absolutely a support. So we had to invest in them as well. So there was a lot of great investments. Again, effect in helping homeless families, we were able to raise that to match Section 8 vouchers. So we're working, and that budget was not inflated. It didn't go anywhere. And we were even supposed to, the mayor wanted to add 578 correction officers. That was not done. It was not done.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read, let's see, is something else happening down here? Okay, good. So thank you to our moderator in the chat. I'm going to read them directly from here. So we have this is about transportation. So and this is for Virginia Bechtold again, 100% as a driver and a pedestrian, double parked cars create havoc. Okay, fine. So that's one for you, AM. So this is from Hugh Walks. How will an express bus lane affect deliveries to small businesses on Flatbush Avenue? And so we addressed that earlier. I just want to make sure I address all the ones. So this is from Elena Callahan. I agree we need bus lanes and more reliable buses. As a B41 rider, shout out to B41 folks. I live on the B41 line. I will say that.
I
don't ride it anymore, but I'm on it. So I'm also wondering about benches for bus stops. Is that being talked about? There are so many people who use buses who are disabled or who are elderly. So Nostrand Avenue, I know B44. There's really been a lot of great, I guess shelters they're called and benches. But yeah, maybe on the B41 line, if there's money for that, that could be added as well. Here's another statement. The section of Flatbush between Newkirk and Foster that intersects with Bedford needs to be totally redesigned. So dangerous for pedestrians and bikers and drivers. I agree. And that's from Avi Glickstein.
I agree as well. So that's one of the things, the areas we also want to look at when we talk to DOT. Other than Empire and Flatbush, we definitely want to talk that crosswalk. It looks so confusing. You don't know when to cross. So I don't know. It definitely do need a redesign. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, I think with all the transportation questions, I forgot to mention earlier, I sit on transportation for the state now and the committee. So looking forward to that conversation. I think September, but I'll check with the teams and make sure we have that town hall. That'll probably be hybrid, both virtual and in person, depending on all the factors of COVID and public health at that time.
And you know what I forgot to mention, which was so important in our budget? Garbage. Our sanitation. We were able to increase litter baskets to 6 days a week, twice a day. So that was important. Rat mitigation, street cleaning, e-waste collection, precision cleaning, lot cleaning. All of that was also in the budget. And that's a lot of calls I get from the neighbors. I'm always on somebody's block. Maybe they don't realize that with DOH for rat abatement. Department of Health, because they're the ones who does the rat abatement. Our city was taken over by rats, so because of the pandemic. So we're working.
And let me just jump in. I know we're almost at time, but I just want to just reiterate to people, this is what partnership looks like. You have a city council member who got into office just 6 months ago. It doesn't feel like it because of the kind of representation she provides and a breath of fresh air she is both in City Hall and our district. And the assembly member who came in just 2 months and 2 weeks ago. And in that time, I think we have been effective both individually and collectively, and continue to work with our colleagues across government, the federal levels, and our local partners and our community in general. So this is not something that happened overnight. The sanitation didn't happen overnight. The issue of transportation hasn't happened overnight. The disinvestment in education for our kids haven't happened overnight. These issues are historic. They're systemic. We are coming into it. But I think the one thing that is clear is that we're focused, laser focused on finding the solutions and committed to not just the partnership we share, but the community that we represent. And I'm looking forward to just continue to have these conversations with this community, both in these virtual spaces, on street corners, everywhere, to kind of figure out how we get stuff actually turned around in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be remiss if I don't at least drop this, which can be part of the next conversation, and that's from Dwayne Nicholson. About the New York State Legislature repealing the repeal of 50-A earlier this year, and a feeling about this. If that's not able to be addressed here, at least maybe for the next conversation. But I needed to at least bring that up.
So thanks for throwing that in there. Definitely, I want to throw that in the next conversation, because I want to just dig into that bill a little further and look at all the tea leaves on it.
Excellent. So to all the people who have shown up later in this chat and provided a wealth of excellent questions and comments on the topics of the budget, housing, transportation, and public safety, we thank you. Please continue to utilize this forum of the virtual Town Hall Tuesdays, which we will be having another one on next Tuesday. And let's continue to have this conversation. These two persons on my left and on my right, they are elected by us. They were chosen by us. They are selected as the best representatives for this time period that we have them. And they came in the middle. They didn't even start at the beginning, as was just echoed. So let's give them our support. Let's put our hand on their shoulder and let them know that we have their back, and that we're standing at their sides, and that we're also standing in front of them, because there are a lot of other people, representatives from other districts, or just within our own walls, within our own, let's say, box, that would think that they should do more. And of course, they are doing that which they can. Shall we hold their hands to the plate and their feet to the fire? Of course. But this is the conversation that we need to have, so that we don't have that whispering behind. They're right here in front of us.
I think she got stuck.
Yeah, I think she got stuck. We want to remind folks to also testify on the rent guideline board that's coming up. They're talking about the increase, so we must encourage our neighbors to register and testify.
Yep, and also this Saturday, you can join the councilman and I at the Parkside Plaza for our Juneteenth celebration. Looking forward to seeing you guys out there. But thank you so much for joining tonight. Looking forward to having these continual Tuesday town halls. They'll probably move to once a month, but definitely want to make sure that our city and state representatives are responsive and you hold us accountable. End of the day, you put us in office. We want you to hold us accountable, and we're going to tell you the truth, look in the eyes, square shoulders, and tell you how we take positions and why we're taking them. But we'll always be responsive, even when we disagree.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, well, we thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday on Town Hall Tuesday with Assembly Member Brian Cunningham. And will we have Council Member?
I hope so.
Of course, I gotta come join Brian because we'll have much more.
She has a busier schedule than me. She's a city council member.
Excellent. We thank you all, and thank you to our moderator for getting us through this. So look forward to seeing you all on the next go rounds. I'm Doriel, and as Larry and I was blessed to be the host for this evening's Town Hall Tuesday. Thank you for the opportunity.